Hi, this is Vic Highland. Today, following on from the setting up as a music teacher films that I've been doing, I was going to do one today on organising your time and organising the way that you conduct lessons. Again, this is another area which you would sort of think, well, you just sort of do it. You're teaching for half an hour, whatever. But there are certain things that are worth bearing in mind here. So I'll just run through a few of the ideas. Some of these will seem so obvious, but you'll be amazed that people don't do this very well. So one of them is keep a diary. Without being organised in that sort of way, if you start double booking people because you haven't kept a diary properly, you will lose business very, very rapidly. I have some friends who run studios, and they're teachers, they're musicians whose organisational skills are a bit limited, I must say, with all best intentions. If you get a situation where somebody makes a mistake with the date that you've booked for a studio, and you turn up and somebody else is already there, that you will never use that studio again. Subsequently, if you let somebody down that you're supposed to be doing a gig for, they won't book you again. So these things are really, really important. And some of the classic mistakes that are made, I mean, the days when you had a diary that was a physical booklet, if you lost your diary, that was a problem, so you needed a backup. But now the problem is that you can have a diary on your iPad or computer that's not linked, and that can be disastrous in the same sort of way. Often what happens with computerization is that the mistakes that can be made are much bigger than the old-fashioned sort of analog sort of things of writing things in books, etc. So that's the first point. Keep a good diary. You need that anyway for your accounting, so do that. But as I say, that is one area that particularly young musicians fall absolutely flat on their face over. The next one is about how to structure your time. Now, I've read loads of books on time management for business, and a lot of this just comes down to common sense, really. But prioritising is absolutely key to getting things done. Things that you don't like doing, that you unconsciously avoid, you'll find yourself doing stuff that, fill your time, when really you should be doing your accounts or starting working on a new website or something that you just find that you don't really want to do. I found the best thing to do with this is, I'm a list maker, basically. So for me, I make a list, I sort of prioritise what it is, and one of the things I find very useful is to make it absolutely physical. You write it down on a piece of paper, and then when you've done it, you cross it off. I found this is a really good technique for doing practice as well, but we'll talk about that at some other time. But primarily, making a list of something, breaking tasks down into components that you can do, today, is very powerful. So for instance, to give you an example, say you've got to do some accounting and you haven't even bought a software package or created a spreadsheet or whatever it is that you're going to do, or buy a book. You do that as your first thing, and once it's done, that's what you were going to do for today, so that's what you do. And then if you've got that, the next thing for that is to start putting the receipts in a folder, or start notating them in some, do half an hour of that or something. Always, it's just like the Mary Poppins thing of a job started, there's a job half done. And that goes for all sorts of things. Getting gigs, what is your first task that was required? You don't have to do a whole bunch of stuff, not unless, of course, you've got that sort of state of mind that you really have to get stuck in and do it until it's finished. I don't think many musicians are like that. Maybe a few, but generally you want to just get started and get underway. So that's one little trick for getting, for using your time and getting time management things. So you prioritise the tasks that take you somewhere. Another thing about organising time, this is an interesting one for people who are doing lessons, is actually keeping to a time frame. Now, I've noticed this a lot with people who do something that's a passion. They'll organise something that's supposed to be at half an hour or 40 minutes or whatever, and that half an hour becomes 40 minutes, 45 minutes. The hour becomes an hour and a half. They're not getting any more money. They can't, basically, because they can't say goodbye. They don't know how to leave. And you have to have some good ways of, like, closing the sale, as they would have said in the old days. In fact, if you go into shops, people who are trained to be good salesmen will actually say to you, how would you like to pay for this? Or would you like this wrapped? In other words, make a decision, give us your money, and then clear off if you can, type of thing. Putting it sort of bluntly, but that's the process of closing a sale. And simple things happen if you're teaching. You have to be able to close a lesson off. So you say, right, okay, good, that's really good. So when you round next, that type of thing. Or could you put, and then if they still don't quite get the message, and this is often the thing with children, you might have to say, do you want me to help you put your guitar away? And I'll see you next week. Have a good week, and that's it. But it's amazing that these simple ideas, that some people find it very difficult to finish a lesson. And obviously good teachers befriend their clients, the pupils are friends, basically, and sometimes it is difficult to actually say goodbye. But you have to do that if you've got to get on to a next appointment, or you've got somebody else coming in. So that's an important point. So there's certain elements there of time management. There are lots of other things as well about just a general overview of time management as a teacher. Apart from the lessons that you're doing, there are other things that you need to do. You need to have some time for bookkeeping and just general organisation. And you might have to script a bit of time for doing that, even if that means getting up slightly earlier, or scheduling a period of time during the day that you can do these things. So for me, obviously doing these sort of videos, I have to get in earlier to do them, or have to stick around. If I've had a cancellation, which is obviously one of these sort of bugbears of people who work for themselves, about clients who cancel, do you charge them for the lesson or not? And one way of doing this is to have a series of things that you need to do. If a lesson is cancelled at the last minute, and sometimes it could be for a very good reason, somebody's taken ill, somebody's stuck in traffic, you get to the sort of thorny thing of, do you charge them for that, which could lose you a lot of goodwill. They'll obviously understand that it's your livelihood. I mean, I have a tendency to organise maybe a longer lesson with the understanding that they really get that I'm sort of getting a lot of goodwill points in the bank, because obviously it's not my fault that they were stuck in traffic, but at the same token, it's all that sort of swings and roundabouts thing, which is about the communication side of business, which if you go to a business school, that would never be sort of thought about really, and truly isn't thought about, because their ideas of goodwill, and you see it happen all the time with the type of advertising that goes on, with things like banks and stuff like that make it look like they're family friendly, but as soon as you really have a problem, they'll sort of drop you in it. Mortgages being a good example. So they're sort of advertising about how family friendly and goodwill orientated they are, gets swiped away within moments. As a small business, you don't really want that to happen, because you're going to be built on goodwill because of things like referral. Now, obviously, when we go, if you're interested in going into real depth about this, I'm obviously going to be running I've mentioned this before, a membership section to the site, where for a small monthly fee, you get access to lots of videos and stuff with people who have made a living out of music. But I do a series of other things about sort of taking you through the process of actually becoming a better musician all round, more creative, and also being able to make money out of it. But that's something we're going to be talking about in the next video, which is a bit speculative, this, but it will be where things appear to be going, as I say, very speculative, based on sort of cutting edge thought about what's happening with the economy, what's happening with the disruptive technologies, and this is based on lots of research and things. Okay, we could be completely wide of the mark, but the points that we're going to be stressing within this, and what I'm going to be talking about, will benefit you anyway, whether things go as bad as some people are expecting, or whether just things change. So we'll catch up on that one, and get yourself organised basically, and I'll speak to you then.